Spencer's 10-year tip with Garry Dibley.
And there we go. We are back in the room once again. It's a Wednesday night. I'm gradually getting that. It's a Wednesday night. It is 9 o'clock. It is time to tin your tip with myself, Garry Dibley, and the ever capable mod master that is Mark. Yeah, bonkers week this week. Lots and lots of stuff happening. Nothing arriving. I've been waiting for parts, particularly big drill bits, to arrive, so we can carry on with the box mod. Bob's Hairy mod that we were looking at last week, but unfortunately they didn't land, so I had to sort of improvise, and it happened Monday night. I thought they were going to turn up, so I had to do something very, very, very quickly. So I apologise well in advance for what you are probably just about to see. However, what we did do is last week we ran a little competition. Somebody won a hand-turned drip tip in their own style or whatever they wanted it to look like, and so we filmed that because we had to make it anyway, and that is all we had lined up. Yes, made some massive ordering errors this week, and I discovered it is in fact my 9th wedding anniversary, exactly 1 week today that we have a meal booked for, and unfortunately that means next week we won't be here, and if I missed going to that meal, I probably wouldn't be here for the foreseeable future, so it's probably a good thing. Let's crack into Mark, who's going to be continuing and finishing the Itaste mod this week. Yeah, I'll see you back here in a bit.
Right, so it's time to finish off this device. And those of you with a good memory, like me, will probably remember I left last week. I just checked to see that everything fits inside with the lid on. I have the fire button set in place where I need it, and eventually I've got something which will activate the button through the case. The 510 hole is now drilled, and during last week's show I was asked in chat what size drill bit I use for the 510, and that is a 11/32 bit which drills a hole in metric will be 8.73mm. The 510 connector generally takes a 9mm hole, but depending on what material you're using, 9mm it can often be loose in here, so if I'm drilling a slightly smaller hole I can always sand it out to fit. In this case I'm probably going to have to sand it very slightly because it won't fit all the way through and I don't want to force the plastic. So I'm going to do that now. To sand the hole out, all I did is wrap a bit of fine sandpaper, or wet and dry paper, around a screwdriver and just worked around the hole. And if you're going to be fitting these, it's best to test fit the hole with the 510 connector you're going to use, because there can be some variance in the size ever so slightly between different manufacturers or different sources, whatever. So that now fits into there, and with a bit of pressure it will press fit right the way in without damaging anything. So I'm good to go with that. Next job I want to do is, because this is going to be a flush fitting switch, I want to try and sand out a slight groove here, so you can feel it when you're pressing the button. I've never tried this before, but here goes. So if I pop this through the hole at an angle, in fact I need something smaller. So I've taken the paper and wrapped it around a thin screwdriver, and just all you're wanting to do is just run it at an angle as shallow as possible. And all I'm looking to do is just give a slight edge to both sides. And with a bit of work, when you pop your button in, you can just feel the edge slightly, so you know you're pressing on the button a bit better. Because the one thing you don't want to be doing is looking at the thing every 5 seconds, working out where the button is. So hopefully that'll help. So it's time to try and wire this thing up, I suppose. Now the first thing to wire up is going to be the 510 connector, because that has to go through the case. It's probably easier to do it at this point when everything is free. So pop the 2 wires through, and start off tearing these up. To the tip first. This is really where an extra pair of hands would come in very handy. And run some solder into the 510 connector. Which I've got far too much of in there. So I'll just grab a solder removing tool. And I just melt the solder, pop it away. And that should be a much better fit, I think. So I'll start off with a positive wire, just drop it down into the hole. Making this look a lot more difficult than it actually is, because of the angle I'm working at. I'll clean out this wire, I think. It's not looking very neat. Shall we see? I'll just snip off. Get myself a nice clean bit of wire. Much better. There you go. Simple as that. And I'm an idiot because that's completely the wrong way.
Right, we're back in the room for another week, and this week I'm gonna stick here. I'm on the on the lathe again, and the reason for that, I've been sort of looking at well, we were looking at Bob's box, and the hairy box I'm now calling it, and the parts that I needed in terms of certain drill bits, this, that and the other, have not turned up. I've left it until the death. It's Monday night tonight. It's 8 o'clock. It's time to tip myself. No, that was 9. But yeah, I'm filming this 8 o'clock on a Monday night because I thought the parts were coming. They're not, which is a complete pain in the arse. However, I did get a couple of things. I know last week I said I was going to look at some different blanks, and I've ordered some. I think I've done a cat. You know when Cat ordered that big syringe, it was almost for inseminating cows. We looked at one of the bigger blanks last week, which is, we're going to be using this today. This is I'm going to show you how to turn the tip for the winner of last week's competition. I'll show you how I do it. I ordered what I thought was ever such a slightly bigger blank, and it come. It's like you could build houses with this thing. Apparently this is a cat pattern of some sort, a panther or something like that, I don't know. But it's massive. But this gave me a bloody good idea when it come. Pipe. Small pipe. It will, look at that, it will take a tube without a problem in the world down the centre of it. So I may, after looking at Bob's thing, we're going to be turning a big acrylic pipey thing, or even not, well, or something this will be used. Yeah, cocked up ever so slightly. So what we're going to do? A lot of people last week had sort of come to me after the show and said, can you do a little bit more on the lathe? Yes, we can. And can we show you a little bit more about what we do? Now, as you can see, I'm handling my rather large tool in the background. It's massive. I couldn't believe how big it was when I got it out. As soon as I got the packaging out, it's massive, and it's quite a handful. There. So, we're not doing the dildo mod. No, we're not. Yes, I've got something in here that I've literally just been playing and turned a few. I just want to show you. In these jaws, we've got the remnants of what was left over from a blank of this size. Just to show you what sort of waste you can get down to. So, from that little section, pretty much everything of a blank of that size was used. And it's all about the prep, the pre-think in, the measuring, roughly what you're going to do. We'll try and talk through that a little bit. But let's look at our winner's tip. Now, our winner said he would like a bit of blank in it. So I'm looking at the blank to start with before I turn it. I'm looking at the patterning, how it's running. And I can see there's quite a distinct vein running through the middle of this tip. It runs up through the outside and disappears. Now I'm not sure how much of that black I'm going to get through the centre, but we'll give it a blast. Like I said to him, he's given me a pattern that he sort of wants me to go to, but like I said, I can't really promise a pattern. First thing we're going to do, our chuck this end. Somebody wanted me to talk about the chuck. Graham from Siam actually recommended this chuck. This is a record chuck, and it comes with lots of different attachments you can screw to this faceplate here. This faceplate here is then adjusted with a small key. Yep. So your key here opens and closes your jaws, and basically, as you can see, this is, because it's a wood lathe, it works in one of two ways. In this way, it will grip. So it'll grip a blank, but if you're turning a bowl or something like that and you first hollow a section out, you can put that over and open this out to grip the bowl.
And I've got different sets of jaws with this that go out in various stages to give a much wider span. First thing I'm going to do, as we did last week, is just centre up, making sure I've got the black vein running the right way. Roughly centre this up. Now, in doing this, I'm bringing in what they call a live centre. And all I'm going to do while that's clamped in there, roughly, oh, see the camera tripod's running away again. Gonna have to move that. Sorry about this. That's going to be annoying. Tighten that up. I'm just centering it roughly on here, and I'm just going to give it a little turn in. And then what I'm going to do is tighten up this end, because effectively what you're doing is centering this up. So when this spins, it spins at a constant. Thing is, when you bring your rest in, I always get my rest as close as I can. Now if I put that in too far, because I'm free with my hand, you can hear that's knocking. You need your rest ever so slight, as much, less of a gap as you can get away with as you can. Boom, there. As you can tell, I'm probably going to be flapping during the course of this, purely because it's last minute. I was expecting to do something completely different, but we'll show you how to spin a tip. I'll come back in two. Okay, so what I'm going to do is literally start rounding this. As I said, I'm going to start chipping away at the square. When you're doing this process, you need these. I've had, forgot to put them on, forgot to drop them down on my nose. A lot of shrapnel can go up in your face with that. Let me just spin that. We're going to bring in our tool and just start straightening that off. Now I can hear that noise in the lathe, and what that means is my centre chuck, I didn't tighten up the thing on it, so it's drifted out ever so slightly, which means that could be flopping around. That noise is quite important. You need to listen to the lathe while you're working on it. As you can see from all the pink confetti and all that sort of stuff, that's the reason you wear the glasses. You don't want a shard of this to fly up and jump in your face. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pop away, I'll round this off, and I'll come back when we're looking at shaping things up.
And there we go, we're back in the room. Couple of questions were asked out. I think Mark answered if you're not watching chat obviously and watching this on the replay, none of this will be relevant, but somebody mentioned in there about the leaded unleaded solder. I personally use a 60-40 mix for most things. I use unleaded on the Itaste connection. That is only purely because of stuff that I've heard, stuff that going around using lead, blah blah blah, blade mouth, no, not good. It's your own personal choice. If it's a mod you're making for yourself, you take your own risk. It's an entirely different process if you're making a mod to potentially pass on to somebody else. I think that's the decision you need to make. If you're selling somebody a mod, you've got to be as open as possible and use the correct materials. If you're making it for yourself and you're not that bothered, a 60-40 mix on a lead solder in the minute amounts that are on there, I don't think it's going to get hot enough to do anything, but I'm not a scientist. I don't know. Like I say, your own choice. But if you are buying a mod, maybe that's a question you ask. I don't know. If it bothers you that much, then ask. It's a difficult one, that. Somebody else mentioned in chat about how much is, would it get to cost setup. The best thing to do is have a look around. There are deals on eBay for lathes and bits and pieces. I bought the kit I've got new. I got it from Axminster. I think the lathe is about 200 quid. the chuck was probably 100 quid, and then the attachments extra, and the tool, my big one, that was about 80 quid less tips. So it does mount up. I use it a lot. I do a lot of things with it. I make pens, I make candlesticks, and I play. Basically, that is my toy, my chill out thing. When I come in from a hard day's work, and when I've done the wife kissing, the kid kissing, send them all to bed, I'm quite happy to come out here like a sag git, stand there and make something. There's me. I don't go out clubbing or anything like that. I've gone past that now. Sad. I would love to go clubbing, but I'd probably die. Let's pop into our first ad break. I'll see you back here in 2.
Liberty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley. iViber and iViber Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iViber.co.uk and iViber-elixir.co.uk. iViber and iViber-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of ViberTrails.tv. Liberty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley.
And there we go, we are back. They go too quickly, those ads. I say it every week, but they do. We need more. Mark's just made a very valid point while the ads were going on. You can also obviously get the sealed 510 connections. What we were talking about was actually the unsealed type, where you're actually using the solder to fill that void. Get a sealed one, shouldn't be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem at all. I had an interesting thing a couple of days ago. Oh, excuse me. A couple of days ago, somebody popped into, we've got an office that's basically got a shop front. Popped into the office. I was on the phone at the time, and I see this guy waving around this thing saying, "Do you sell? I want a brand new charger." And I looked up, caught him out the corner of my eye, and he's waving around basically an ego charger. So I sort of like I was trying to get off the phone at this point. Sorry if you were talking to me. But I said, what's the problem, sir? We can certainly try and assist you with that. But basically, he thought his charger was knackered. Now, he had an Ego kit. It was an e-cig wizard kit, actually, that he bought from a local market stall. And he was having problems. It wasn't charging his battery. And so I had an Ego on me and this, that and the other. Anyway, cut a long story short, he'd been going up and down the parade of shops that our office is on, trying to find a charger to buy. And at that point, he was quite happy that if he would have found one, he would have gone away and bought anything to screw this into, which a little bit concerning, obviously, with everything that's been going on at the moment. So I took it off him, plugged the USB in my PC, plugged his battery in, nothing at all, plugged mine in, blah blah blah, got a meter, his battery was as flat as a fart, and basically I think the charging, I didn't have too much time, I think the charging circuit had gone in his particular Ego. Now, after having a chat with him and educating him about the dangers of don't just go and buy a random charger and plug that in it, he was taking it back, and I think he popped in today to thank me, because they changed it all for him and this and the other. But random, totally random, out of the blue. Never had anybody pop into our place before looking for an e-cig charger. And we get lots of stuff, but never one of those. Maybe we should start selling them. Right, let's get on with our mods. Mark's cracking on with his Anakin. Back in 2.
Oh dear, it's only one of those days, like. If I try again. There we go. Hopefully the negative will be a lot simpler. Famous last words. Oh, that's your 510 connector soldered in place. Now, one thing when you are soldering one of these, you need to make sure that the insulation for your positive wire is all the way down to the positive connector. So if there's any bare wire coming across here, it can short out on this casing. And the other thing to remember is when you're finished, clean up any excess blobs of solder that have gathered around here from bad soldering. Again, to minimise the chances of anything shorting out between the two posts. Now I just need to free up the 510 connector. Carefully unscrew it, it's still a bit hot. In fact, I'll leave that a minute. Right, I've given it a second to cool. And it appears to have locked in place with the heat. Just grip it a bit with some pliers and rest it. Now, just pop this back through the hole. And with a bit of pressure, this will press into place like so. That's a good firm fit there, so it's not going to move around at all, which will make life a lot easier. Now the other two wires to be soldered are the battery connectors. Yeah. The first job is to try and remove this hot glue from in the way. Stuff I really hate on these electronics. There we go. And as you'll see, there's two plain wires here, which I've left in place, and probably will just leave in place permanently, I think. I'll just snip them off. In fact, I'll do that now. If I just cut these off flush, then I've still got a visual indicator as to which way is which. And this will sit in this sort of position. So a positive wire will run down one side of the board, and the negative will just pop across the top. So the wire's trimmed off. I've pre-soldered, well, pre-tinned it with wires. I think I might try and run this positive underneath the board, along the gap between the board and the switch. That might make it a bit neater, because I've got an awful lot of wire lying around here. And if I bend this into position, maybe just be able to drop that onto there like so. And again with the negative on the outside. Well, there you look at all, that's my soldering done. Now, before I go any further, I need to try and test this. And of course that battery won't work because it's a flat top. There we go. That battery needs charged, but it's working.
Okay, I've got my blank nice and round. Now the way that I do this is probably, there are many ways of doing this, but the way that I look at it is you can see roughly where your colours, where your pattern is going to be. There's a black bit down the bottom there. Now I know I wanted a black bit in. He wants it to have a rough sort of curve on it with a flat tip. Doesn't want it domed out. Like with many things, most people or some people will like a long one. Some people will like a short one. Some people like a bit more girth in it in the mouth. Some people like it, you know, thin. Obviously, we are talking drip tips. What I do is tend to size up roughly where my tip's going to be before I start turning. Now, because I've got to put a straight tip on this, and Graham's probably going to cringe when he sees me doing this, but I like to hollow out with a paring tool roughly where it's going to be, because when I bring this tool in, if I'm cutting a straight line, you know, a certain point, I've got to have it to a level that I can work this round tip on. So I'm just going to roughly gauge out where I need to be. Just score a little line, and I'm just going to now take that down to hopefully a point that when I try and straighten out this tip section here with this, I'm not going to be snarling up on this portion. So I'm just going to go ahead now and start trying to get some rough shape into this. It looks very quick on this process, but there are so many more processes behind this that take the time. can see how much dust and stuff this generates. Drives you potty, this dust, after a while. And you can see now where I'm talking about, I've got very little manoeuvrability in here. So I'm starting to work my straight section down here now. Got to allow for a bit of waste. I know I shouldn't be sticking my fingers in this, but I've done this so many times. I know that I might not kill myself. And I do apologise if you won this tip. I'm going from sheer memory as to what exactly you said to me. But I know it involved a straight end. Now what I've got to do is just quickly finish off, and I'm going to have to knock the camera for this, excuse me. I'm just releasing the back end so I can ever so slightly get a bit of a curve on the back. I'm going to bring that back in. Now I've got a flare up here that I don't really want, so I'm going to bring in a bit of a different tool. Using it totally the wrong way. I've got a bit of burning there, shouldn't have. Just not much talking here, but working through the tools, and I'm running that backwards and forwards to try and get. I'm losing the back end, so it's all going to go wrong. I've got a rough shape marked out there, and I've got a bit of scorching, a bit of burning, which is cool. You probably can't see anything I'm doing today. What I'm going to do now is just quickly release this chuck. I'm going to put the drill bit in, and I'm going to drill out a centre hole through the middle of here. I'll come back when we're sort of at a stage where we can work a bit further on this, trying to rush it. If you want to see this in a bit more slow-mo and a bit more in depth, let me know. I don't have time this week. Bit up against it. Pop back into. And there we go, we're back in the room. Now, I could sense a few people absolutely cringing at me brushing the dust out of the way. Just so you know, the stuff that wraps around, obviously when you're turning that, it spins at such a speed that effectively what you're doing is taking off long beads, and as you're taking them, the lathe's going at such a velocity, it grabs a bit in and it spins it up. So that's why you end up with a lot of stuff around it. A lot of the manufacturers of the blanks actually put warnings on the website for people that are used to turning with wood, that when you start working with acrylic, to expect that. It is a byproduct of working with that type of material. Never take a risk with the lathe. I'm more than comfortable on one, and if you'll see coming up when I start doing the polishing, just how my hands are held in a certain way that no fingers are sticking out, this, that and the other. I work very, very close to the chuck in the next section, and you'll probably see that a little bit later. I'll stop waffling. Let's get on with the second little ad break. Pop back into.
Liberty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley. Liberty Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley.
And we're back in the room. I will most definitely say that I'm far safer in the workshop than in the kitchen, as a few people have pointed out in chat. Took a thumb tip off in the kitchen, cut through the tendons on this finger in the workshop. Dropped a knife and it went through my foot in the kitchen once. So, you know, it sort of swings and roundabouts. With the lathe, take no risks. No risks at all. Let's pop into Mark's next. I've been cackling on too long tonight. Let's crack on.
And if I press the fire button, I should say we've got a green light. So we're good to go. Pop that back down in place. I just need to adjust the wires around so everything's neat and find something to fix this in place with. Now, I've been debating as to what to fix this in place with. So, it's hot glue, the clear epoxy, or the epoxy putty. Initially I'm just going to use some super glue and just tack everything into place and see where I go from there. So, a bit of light. Might be easy to see. First off, the 510 connector. And these wires need to be pushed down because that slot there, if the wires are getting in the way, it won't seal in place. That will be the first job. And then if I find my little screwdriver. I'll just push them down in place. Wait for the glue to go off. Now I've given these the glue up here plenty of time to set, also because I don't want it to end up touching it and gluing myself to it. The next job is going to be to tack this board in place. Now I'm using a gel glue here, which is important because if you're using a liquid glue there is a danger that it's going to run down the edges and possibly jam your switch in place. Of course, make sure my switch is still in the right position. That's the position I need this to be in. Trying to keep everything from moving. I'll string this glue down here. Now, if I'm honest, that should be enough really to hold everything in position. Try not to glue myself to it. Now, after last week's show, seeing the on Garry's segment, seeing the liquid, well, assuming it's liquid latex covering everything, I am thinking about getting hold of some, as I could cover all this over with the liquid latex, seal it in, so there's no danger of any juice coming from inside. Sticky fingers. If I seal it all over with the liquid latex, then it'll seal everything off, and it's fairly easy just to remove it if there's ever a problem. So that may be a way to go with this, and it'll neaten everything up. I shall see I'll possibly revisit this in a future show. Now the glue should be fully set now, so it should just be a matter of testing it. And earlier on I said I needed a nipple top battery to run in here. If you're going to try and use flat tops, what you really want to try and do is add a dauber solder to the end of the nipple here, just so it sticks out far enough to make a contact. I'm not going to do that in this case. Set it up to 4.2 volts, I think. And it fits together, so all I need now is an atomizer on the top. And what you haven't seen up to this point is the fire button. There's a nice silver button, but not sure how well it shows up on the camera. It shines through that green. I'll just try to clean it. a nice green glow to it. It doesn't show up so well on the camera, but it's firing nicely. And vaping fine. So that's it, pretty much complete. As I said, I may seal this all in to make it neater with some liquid latex, or I might add clear epoxy. But if I'm going to add the clear epoxy, I need to be very careful just to add it to this end and along here, because I really don't want it going underneath and jamming that button up. But yeah. Let's just see if I can. I'm not very good at adjusting these. Right, take that up to 5 volts. No problem at all. That's working lovely. So there you have it, a rehoused Itaste VV.
Right, so we're back, and I've drilled the centre core through here with a 5mm drill bit. Now that will give you a rough idea with the insert in how this tip is going to turn out. What I need to do now is start finishing this. Now I'm going to start with some wet sandpaper to start with, and I'm literally just going to take out a lot of the imperfections, a lot of the turning marks, and you can see you've got to keep this wet. This acrylic can get very, very warm when you're working with it. So I'm just working out some of that, and then what I'm going to do is start bringing in the micro mesh. Like I say, this is a seriously speeded up version of this. Now I'm on to a 1500 course micro mesh to start with. We're not going to go mental. I've had like I say, I've been waiting for parts to do Bob's mod, so I thought we'd show you. Somebody wanted to see a bit more lathe work and talk about this, that and the other. If it's boring you, I apologise. It's been a long wait, and it's so annoying when you're waiting for something to arrive and it just doesn't land. As you can see, I'm working this, working it. I'm going to work for all the grades, and I'll come back in 2. And that's it, we've just gone through the final grit, and you can see how after 20 minutes of hard graft, that's taken it almost to a glass finish. It takes a lot of work. Basically every time you change a grade, you're taking out another layer. Now it goes, you're not going to be able to see that because my focus ain't going to work, but they go like glass if you take your time and finish them. Now I'm just going to bring in my tool rest, and I'm just going to bring in my chuck. I'm just going to position me dual up there. Now I'm looking at a cut-off point for this, and I'm probably going to take it off on about where that bead is, because I don't think our winner's going to want that bead. I might take it off a little bit before, don't know. Like I say, it's freehand. It's anybody can have a bash, and this is effectively where we separate our tip from the block. And there she blows. What I need to do now is go and get the insert. Better turn that off before I take my hand off. I'm going to go and get the insert fixed in this, and we just got to finish the top off and all that sort of stuff, and I'll come back when I've got it all done and we're back in here again. Right, so basically I've got the I've powered this off. I've got the rear Itaste connector in. I've got it in an old cartomizer. Great tip from Graham there, secured, and it should pretty much self-center. And now what I'm going to do is just literally work on the end. Now what this means is I'm just working on the end ever so slightly to start with the sandpaper, just ever so slightly damp, just to take off the imperfections. Now what I need to do now, once I've got the outside sorted, is to start working on the internals. And when I say the internals, to me, you know, and a lot of other people, the inside of the tip needs to look as good as the outside of the tip. It should be just as shiny. I'll pop back in 2. It's going to take about another 20 minutes. You don't want to see me standing there sanding. I'll just move some bits out of the way. Now, buffing and polishing away. I don't even know if that is even in focus or anywhere near it. I know I've missed a lot of steps on this, which unfortunately, due to timescales and parts not arriving and all that sort of stuff, is unfortunately where I landed up with. But we made our little prize for last week's winner, as you can see, nicely finished on the inside as it is on the out, and hopefully it is to sort of what you were expecting. Let's stick it on a device so I can show you what it looks like. Did it? There we go. If you want to see a little bit more on this bad boy and a bit more in-depth stuff, more than happy to do that. Unfortunately, time has sort of run away with me this week waiting for parts, so I had to put something together very quickly. Didn't have much of a choice. I had to use what was to hand, and obviously we had to get a prize out to the winner that we had last week. Hopefully it was worthwhile. I don't even know. I've yet to watch his back. I may have to remake all this tomorrow night and try and get it done and uploaded for the day after. That's what you get for having a Sunday off and waiting for parts. Happy days. Back to me in the studio. Like I say, sorry. See you next week. And we're back. Yeah, just laughing at some of the comments. I do apologise for some of the innuendos that were going on during the turning of that tip. I can only apologise. But obviously that I was caught a bit short this week. Stuff didn't arrive. I had to do something, and we got it posted out. Yeah, I've still got it here. So that was what we were giving away. Somebody was watching the show last week who won it, so you know, tune in. We might do a random giveaway again in the future. I've been working on something with, I don't know if you guys remember Louis, a guy I work with. We've been working on a which is probably going to be pretty sweet, a DNA mod. And we're using all parts from the, I shouldn't say this, from the warehouse. If you're watching, boss, I'm sorry. So yeah, you know, we got some. We're looking at making it with some electrical parts, shall we say, stuff that you would find in a domestic B&Q outlet or any other home basey type thing. It could be interesting with the big emergency button. We don't know, but yeah, we've been playing. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to tune into the shows for the rest of the week. I'm totally out of sync with this still because it's Wednesday and we used to go out on a Monday. But obviously tomorrow night we've got Dave, and then we're Sunday for Dave and Dave. And then we roll through the week again. Unfortunately, like I said, I won't be here Next week it is my 9th wedding anniversary, and I have to buy my wife a pot of some thing. Apparently it's pottery. Would you buy a woman for pottery? I haven't got a clue. And she likes that sort of stuff. So I might see if I can dig some clay out of the garden and make her something. Right, with all that said, it has been emotional. Once again, I'm randomly looking for the titles and all that sort of stuff. Thank you very much, Mark, Top Mod. Thank you very much, team behind the scenes, who have been guiding me through this entire process. And thank you very much to all you people who watch and chat for joining in. It has been great. Cheers. See you next week.
Liberty Flight sponsors 10-Year Tip with Garry Dibley.